This is a 600-point game between Ultramarines and the Dark Angels. The Ultramarines will be using a Space Marine captain with a power weapon, a 8-man tactical squad with a sergeant with a power weapon in a Rhino, a 10-man squad of scouts, all with close combat weapons, and the sergeant with a power weapon, and 2 land speeders. One of the land speeders is upgraded to a Typhoon missile launcher. The units the Dark Angel player will be using in the 600-point game are a Dark Angel Space Marine captain equivalent with a power weapon, a 5-man tactical squad with a sergeant upgraded to a power weapon. One of the Marines is wielding a melta-gun, and they're all in a Rhino. There is a group of 5 scouts, all using sniper rifles. There is a group of 5 assault squad Marines. One of them has a power fist, and there is a land speeder with a heavy flamer. The game we are playing tonight is an Annihilations game, which is basically kill points, and the deployment type is pitched battle. The Dark Angels won the roll-up to go first, and they decided to deploy on that half of the map. The map is a 4x4 table, which is smaller than a regular table for our smaller game. The Ultramarines deployed on this half of the map. The scouts deployed in front of the Rhino to get cover. Inside of the Rhino, there is the 8-man tactical squad with the Space Marine captain in there. And there's also these 2 land speeders behind the building. On the Dark Angel's left flank is the Rhino filled with a 5-man tactical squad with a melta-gun and the Space Marine captain equivalent. There is also the land speeder and the assault squad in the center, and then the 5-man group of scouts in the building. I attempt to Steve's the initiative, but fail with the 5. This is Dark Angel's turn 1. The land speeder moved forward, the assault squad and the Rhino moved along the left flank. The scouts in the building fired at the Rhino and managed to immobilize it. And that's pretty much all that happened on Dark Angel's turn 1. Ultramarines turn 1. The tactical squad and the Rhino fired at the land speeder. They were quite successful and managed to shake it so it cannot shoot next turn. The land speeders over here fired at the Rhino and shook it so it cannot move or shoot next turn. And that is all that happened in Ultramarines turn 1. Dark Angels turn 2. Not much happened for Dark Angels turn 2. The assault squad moved forward and the Rhino is no longer stunned. The Rhino couldn't move and didn't really do much this turn. The land speeder turbo boosted forward to get the cover safe. It's no longer shaken. Fired at the Rhino and succeeded in taking off its Stormbolter. So the Rhino currently has nothing. And that happened Dark Angels turn 2. Ultramarines turn 2. The 8-man tactical squad with the Space Marine captain jumped out of the practically useless Rhino and rapid fired the land speeder, doing no damage. The scouts also fired their pistols at the land speeder and did no damage. The scouts then assaulted the land speeder, causing it to explode and lost 3 scouts in the process. The 2 land speeders over here fired at the Rhino and only managed to shake it. And that's pretty much all the damage that happened during Ultramarines turn 2. Dark Angels turn 3. A lot more happened this turn. The Rhino moved forward and the assault squad was finally able to assault my tactical squad. The sergeant with the power fist was able to instant kill my Space Marine captain, but my tactical squad and the Space Marine captain were able to kill 3 of the assault squad, winning combat. The Rhino moved forward and drop the tactical squad out. They tried to melt-a-gun my land speeders, but only managed to shake one of them. So only one of them can't shoot next turn. And that is pretty much all the damage that happened this turn. The assault squad held their ground in the combat, and that's about it. Ultramarines turn 3. My land speeders in this turn just turbo boosted away from the Rhino with the melt-a-gun to avoid danger, but did not fire this turn because they turbo boosted. In the assault phase, the scouts entered the fray against the assault marines and ended up succeeding in wiping out the assault squad. And this is how they consolidated the tactical squad around the Rhino, which is virtually useless, and the scout squad into cover to gain cover saves from these sniper shots. Dark Angels turn 4. Not much happened this turn, considering there really isn't much left for the Dark Angels. The Rhino moved forward with the tactical squad re-embarking into the Rhino, and they took some pot shots, weren't very successful, and the snipers in the building shot at the Rhino and did no damage. That's all that happened. Dark Angels turn 4. Ultramarines turn 4. Not much happened this turn. I moved my scouts away from the Rhino, tried to get out of assault range of the units inside, while still gaining cover saves from the snipers, and the tactical squad pretty much stayed behind the Rhino. I didn't fire my land speeders at the Rhino because I felt it wasn't going in my favor, and I gave him a lucky shot to maybe keep him in the game. And so I just fired them at the snipers and did nothing. And that's all that happened. Ultramarines turn 4. Dark Angels turn 5. As you can see, this is the last effort of the Dark Angels. The Dark Angels did a ramming attack with their Rhino against my Rhino and succeeded in immobilizing it, but since there was nothing left to immobilize and no weapons left to destroy, it ended up destroying my Rhino. And the troops inside got out and shot at my land speeders and succeeded in, I believe, shaking both of them. That's all they managed to do. Oh, and they also managed to take out the heavy bolter on one of them. And the snipers fired and did nothing. And that's pretty much what their last units were able to accomplish in that turn. Ultramarines turn 5. My tactical squad assaulted his tactical squad with his leader in it and I believe tied combat. My scouts assaulted the Rhino and managed to immobilize it even though it had moved its full 12 inches. And my land speeders, which were shaken this turn, just turbo boosted over the combats to the other side of the Rhino, gaining cover saves from the sniper fire. And that's pretty much all that happened on Space Marines turn 5. This ends up being the last turn of the game, and it ends up being a tie because he got 2 kill points on me, which was my leader and my Rhino, and I got 2 kill points on him, which was his land speeder and his assault squad. And that's pretty much the result of the game me and my friend had. Both had a good time, playing a small 600-point game. We later played, I think, a 2,000-point game, sort of like a preamble into it. Start off with a smaller game, sort of ease you into the thinking of the game. And, yeah.